But yes, my friends, another Metaphor ReFantazio project. For this one, it's just the jacket though, so I'm gonna slow things down a little bit and show you a little bit more than I usually do. Also, this can serve as some form of tutorial for anyone who purchased the pattern for the jacket. Links are in the description. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. High five. Oh, and at some point in the video, there's gonna be a little something sneaky, but I won't make it too sneaky. Not this time, at least. Okay, so let's get right into it. This guy's got a very specific design on his fabric, and although I could have settled for a brocade or some kind of cotton with a print, I decided to be a little bit more extra and add to the hours this would take. So every pattern piece is traced to my fabric so it can be embroidered. And while I'm at it, I might as well cut out the black stretch vinyl. Time to mark this bad boy up. I'll spare you the math part and skip right to the chalk and pencil and ruler part. The idea is to have the pattern continue as much as possible from panel to panel. It's not always perfect, but as long as it seems that way, it's fine. If someone brings calipers to a con, they have bigger issues in the placement of your embroidery or fabric paint. But I will say, paint stamps could allow you to add the pattern after the jacket is assembled. Choices. Anyways, as you can imagine, that had to go on for a while, but I make use of my time by cutting out the completed panels and ripping off any tearaway interfacing. Of course, to the gentle tune of the embroidery machine. I had this green in my stash, so I figured it would work nicely as a lining since his vest is green as well. I always like to think about what part of a costume might flap open or up when picking the finishing methods or linings. And that is why I'm going to do a gray facing here on the ends of the sleeves. And the outer layer might as well be assembled too. The cuff facing was ironed before closing up the tube, of course, and back to the sleeve board it goes. Nice and crispy. This type of sleeve lining is very easy mode, it just slides right into the other. You should see the seam allowances here, which would mean they are right sides together. Apologies for the whole head in the frame, though that's nothing new here. I try to be mindful of it, but when lining seams up with a pin, one gets lost in the alignment galaxy. Back to the Milky Way though, time to sew. Iron my seam allowance open. If I say the technique out loud, that'll make it work, right?
Understitch.
I think it did though. So what would a cosplay jacket be without some weird shaped sleeve, right? Far from the last. The cap thing is sewn to each layer separately before tucking in the lining inside. At this point, I wasn't sure if I would need additional structure. It turns out, I did not. I recommend basting these layers together to save you future trouble. Click here!
Oh, wow!
This is a link. Winner! This is how the body pieces line up, specifically for the lining. I like to assembly line these things when possible, cause then it's all like bada bing, bada boom. Bada bing, bada boom. The yoke after ironing, and then iron it again. You're gonna be ironing for the rest of your life, so you better get used to it, pal. I used to hate ironing. Bane of my existence. I think I was too, stoked about what I was making that the thought of getting up and going to the ironing board felt like a broken down engine. Like an unplanned detour, like a bee. Just showing up. But I think what it really takes is realizing the difference that ironing and pressing makes in the final result of your costume, or whatever it is you're doing. You learn to appreciate it as a necessary step, an obligatory step, I'd even say. You know, a wise man once said, just do it! Alright, so this is a strange part, kind of. The bottom of the jacket also has gray facings, similar to the sleeve. This is how I lay them out. In doing so, I also realized I should not have sewn the back all the way down, so a quick fix on that real quick. This is part of the lining, by the way, so it has to be connected to the green. This is the result we want right here. And here's how not to do it. I got confused by the inverse side or something, so this ends up getting unpicked. Did you notice me pause slightly in confusion there? Then I just went with it. Yeah, it's not wrong, it's just not the cleanest. Okay, so time to redo it. This time sewing towards our edge turn. It was already slashed, so it's going to be a little bit trickier. And that turns way more smoothly. I still mess things up after 15 years, and I still get confused too. It's cool though, because we figure it out. Check that out after it's pressed. Nice. This thing right here's alignment is fixed in the final pattern if you were wondering. Now the outer layer can be assembled. Pins for me usually mean stop right there, buddy. This here's private property. So I know not to go beyond it. So I do have a knot button on my sewing machine, but in areas like these where the slit is meant to stay open, I'm going to do a back stitch for extra security. This is what I like to call the clapper train. I'm sure I need not explain. Now I want to top stitch this stretch vinyl, but it stretches and grips like this. So I bust out my thin tearaway interfacing to use as a barrier. You can actually use masking tape if you're in a bind. Look how crispy. No telephone cording at all. Didn't Hulkenberg also have decorative rivets? But oh boy, am I fully aware of what is on the horizon for me. Better start working out, Mom. I don't think my mom watches my videos. This press comes in handy though, and the exact reason why I purchased it was due to said aforementioned horizon. I'm not completely insane. The decorative belt thing gets some interfacing on the end and the edges turned inward. Now I'm going to say this again, and it likely won't be the last time you'll hear me say this, but you can absolutely iron vinyls and faux leathers and things. You just have to use a protective barrier in between your iron and the fabric. Now whether that barrier is parchment paper in some situations or a piece of cotton fabric, which is what I'm using here. The interfacing is mainly there to prevent the back from stretching since it won't be secured to the jacket. Close up a boning channel at the end and a simple zip tie will do. That just keeps the fabric from collapsing and scrunching up when it's all laced up. Remember the whole stretch thing? This is where I really don't want this thing stretching. So the now famous crappy tearaway interfacing makes a comeback. In fact, you know what? It's not crappy anymore. I use it so often for this time, even life-saving technique, it's earned its place in my arsenal. I went and connected the tops of the sleeves and added the rivets there too. Wabam! And now I'm thinking that I'm going to be needing some interfacing for the bottom hem before I start doing the cutouts. So I decided to put the interfacing on the lining layer, and I'm just putting it on the bottom part where the gray is. So that's where I'm at right now. That way there's no like distinctive line that stops like around here where you can tell that it's the interfacing starts and continues. I want it to still look perfectly smooth on that side. Yeah, so I tried doing that live update thing a couple times, so it might show back up in other videos. I'm really not a fan since it interrupts my workflow. If anything, I might just do it with the phone mic since it's not a horrible mic or anything. Now watch me make sense of this technique in real time before I show it to you properly. Go like this. This would have to get sewn to this. And my stitch has been locked right here. Then we go over here. I was gonna solve the issue with hand sew, like this, okay. But before we get to that, we must first tackle the cutouts. The fabric is anchored down and we begin the journey around these shapes, which are way less annoying than the clubs on Hulkenberg. Then when I reach the weird place, I stop right before the edge by the amount I want my line to be. Fold it back like this, and then finish the bottom edge, as well as the long remaining edge. That way, once I'm done clipping away all my edges, ironing any reachable seams open, it can turn inside out, like this, with the seam visible on the exterior, creating our strip for the buttons. For the back opening, and of course this is updated on the pattern, so no need to cut this like I am, the excess gets ironed inwards with a slanted edge. And for the first time on this project, some hand sewing. I almost forgot about this triangle thing, so let's sew that on next. Now, one thing we can't forget is the collar. Otherwise, this would be a cardigan or something. Half the collar stand is ironed inwards, the collar is bag-lined and the edges are clipped, seams ironed, opening basted shut, sandwiched into the stand, sewn up, connected to the jacket, and the inner edge is hand sewn down. Luckily, these buttons don't need to close. In fact, the shape of the jacket would make that rather difficult. So the buttonholes are not being cut open at all. For the sleeves, I'm just going to sew it on directly and hide the raw edge with some black twill tape. And boom! Signed, sealed, delivered. Oh, and I always get asked how long something took, so 43.5 hours. So here it is. There it is. There it was. I hope you guys like it. And of course, if you missed it, I'd go check out that lava lamp shot again. Now, like I said, this is not the last of the Metaphor projects, as I was also commissioned to make Louis, so stay tuned for that, as well as another jacket in the future that I have not started yet. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I will have links in the description for you guys, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side.